Supply. Supply is defined as the ability and willingness to sell or produce a particular product and service in a given period of time at a particular price, ceteris paribus. Supply should have ability and willingness. If one company have ability to sell a product, but they don't have any willingness to produce the product, that is not a supply. So next, what is the meaning of ceteris paribus? Ceteris paribus means all other factors being unchanged or constant. Let's move on to law of supply. The higher the price of a good, the greater is the quantity supplied for that good. The lower the price of good, the lower is the quantity supplied. Ceteris paribus. So it is a positive relationship. Next, how to draw a supply curve. First, we need to plot a supply curve based on the given supply schedule. Then, after we plot the information given, we just need to connect all the interception. Then, we have a supply curve. There are two types of supplies, which are individual supply and market supply. Next, individual supply is the relationship between the quantity of a product supplied by a single seller and its price. Here is the example of individual supply curve. As you can see, supply curve for individual supply is upward sloping from left to right. Market supply is the relationship between the total quantity of a product supplied by adding all the quantities supplied by all sellers in the market and its price. Here is the example of market supply schedule. We need to add all the quantity from all sellers and that amount will be plotted on supply curve. For market supply, the curve will look more flatter and wider.
Today, I'll be explaining about Chapter 2, Supply, which is the factors of affecting supply. So, there are three factors that affecting supply. The first one is price of related goods. The second one is cost of production, and the third one is technological development. Fourth one is government policies, and number 5 is number of sellers in the market, and the last one is future expectation. Okay, number 1 is price of related good. Price of related goods is divided by 2, which is complementary goods and substitute goods. Okay, I'll be explaining about the complementary goods. Complementary goods and substitute goods, it's a bit different. Okay, complementary goods is when the price of goods A is increasing, so the quantity of supply goods A also increase, and the supply of goods B increase because they are complementary goods. They are positively related to each other. As an example, okay, when the price of car is increasing, automatically the quantity supply of petrol also will be increasing because the car needs petrol to drive your car. If you don't have petrol, you cannot drive your car, right? So automatically the seller is trying to gain the profit by increasing the quantity supply of petrol. Okay, because the second one is substitute goods. Substitute goods is a bit different from complementary goods because when the price of goods A is increasing, quantity supply of goods A will be increasing, but the quantity supply for goods B will be decreased as they are substitute goods. They are negatively related. Okay, for example, when the price of chicken is increasing, automatically the quantity supply of chicken will be increasing, but the quantity supply of beef will be decreased because supplier tend to supply more when the price is increasing, so they gain more profit rather than supply more for beef. They gain a less profit rather than chicken. Number 2 is cost of production. Okay, when the cost of production is increasing, so the quantity of supply for the product will be decreased. It is because if the raw materials, for example, okay, when the raw materials for baking cakes is increasing, like flour, sugar, eggs is raw material for cakes is increasing, so automatically the cost of production will be increased. But the quantity supply will be decreased as they need to lesser the supply to gain more profit as the cost. Okay, the third one is technological development. When the level of technology is increasing, the supply will be increased too, because higher technology levels allow a smaller quantity of resources to be used for production, which in turn reduces the cost of production. Okay, for example, when the technology of smartphone is increasing from keypad to touch screen, automatically the quantity of supply for smartphone will be increased because the cost of production is decreased. Automatically it has been reduced the cost of production, so supplier tend to supply more the smartphone as they want to gain more profit. The fourth one is government policies. Government policies is divided by two, which is taxes and subsidies. For the taxes, government applied taxes to supplier to decrease the to discourage the producers to producing extra, which increases the cost of production, because taxes will decrease the supply of goods since it increasing the cost of production. So seller will automatically decrease their supply for their. However, when the government give the supplier a subsidy, they want the producer to produce more, as the subsidy will increase the supply because the cost of production has been decreased. So the next one is number of sellers in the market. This is because number of suppliers will influence the supply. When the suppliers is increasing, when the number of suppliers is increasing, there are more outputs that can be produced in the market, so the quantity supply also will be increasing. Okay, when the supplier, for example, when the supplier of broccoli is increasing, automatically the quantity of supply also be increasing. So the last one, factors that affecting supply is future expectation. Okay, this is because when the producers expect the price of goods will be increased in the future, so the producers will supply less goods at the present time. Also will be decreased the supply of goods because they want to supply more goods in the future to gain more profit. For example, okay, when the supply expect the price of cooking oil will be increasing next week, so they will be decrease the quantity supply at the present time to gain more profit.
Change in supply refers to the shift in the supply curve either to the left or right. This occurs when there are changes in other factors such as pollution, income, price of related goods, and others, but the price remains constant. In this graph, increase in supply is from S1 to S2. This shows that the price of the goods has no change, but the quantity of supplies has increased at each price level as a result of the change in the determinants of supplies, not the price of the goods. Supply curve shifts to the right if number 1, price of substitute goods decrease. Number 2, price of complement goods increase. Number 3, price of input decrease. Number 4, expect future price decrease. Number 5, increase in number of sellers. And the last one, government provides subsidy to the seller. After that, in this graph, decrease in supply is from S1 to S3. This shows that the price of the goods has no change, but the quantity of supplies has decreased at each price level as a result of the change in the determinants of supplies, not the price of the goods. Supply curve shift to the left if number 1, price of substitute goods increase. Number 2, price of complement goods decrease. Number 3, price of input increase. Number 4, decrease in the number of the seller. And the last one, government impose tax to the seller.
Next is change in quantity supply. This is the example of the graph of change in quantity supply. Change in quantity supply occurs due to the price of the good itself. As you guys can see, change in quantity supply only involves movement along the supply curve. Next, when the price of the good increase, the quantity of supply also will increase. This can be shown by the graph from point A to point B. When the price increase from RM10 to RM20, make the quantity of supplies also increase from 5 to 10. This is known as expansion of supply. Meanwhile, when the price of the good decrease, the quantity of supply also will decrease. This can be shown by the graph from point C to point B. When the price decrease from RM30 to RM20, make the quantity of supply also decrease from 15 to 10 units. This is known as contraction of supply.
Exceptional supply. Exceptional supply is the opposite of the law of supply, whereas price increase, the quantity supplied decrease, and vice versa. Example of exceptional supply is labor market. From the graph above, W2 is income effect. This is exceptional supply curve. We can see that this is against the law of supply, whereas price increase, quantity of supply decrease. For example, when offer of wage rate increase, labor decrease working hour because leisure hours are now more valuable, such as spend more time with family, recreational activity, and realization. After that, below W2 is substitution effect. We can see that this is follow the law of supply, whereas when price increase, the quantity of supply increase. For example, when wage rate increase, labor is willing to work longer hours. Interrelated supply. Interrelated supply divided by 2, joint supply and competitive supply. Joint supply is goods that are produced together. For example, meat and leather, petrol and gas. When supply of meat increase, supply of leather also increase. After that, competitive supply. Competitive supply is goods that require the same factors of production or inputs. For example, rubber and palm oils, burgers and sausage. When price of palm oil increase, supply of palm oil increase. Therefore, supply of rubber will be decreased. This is because more land will be used for the plantation of palm oil.